Hi fellas and welcome to Movie Dissect. Today I would like to talk to you about a movie that everyone around us is talking about. That movie is actually already 9 years old and yet it managed to predict so much of the reality that we're living in today with all this coronavirus stuff. And the movie I'm talking about is Contagion. Contagion tells us a story of the spread of the deadly and, in our case, daily virus, and it was directed by Steven Soderbergh and written by Scott Burns. So in this film, Gwyneth Paltrow, who's gonna be our patient zero and also the wife of Matt Damon, goes on a business trip to Hong Kong, comes back severely ill, and before Matt Damon realizes anything, she already dies due to some kind of flu. The doctors can't really say which virus is responsible, and yet this virus is causing a lot of casualties, and just like this, before you know it, a whole global epidemic breaks out. Does it sound familiar? By the way, there's this producer called Irwin Allen, and in his times he would produce a lot of disaster movies like The Poseidon Adventure and The Towering Inferno, and combined with that he would have almost always a really great cast of actors. Well, with actors like Matt Damon, Jude Law, Kate Winslet, Gwyneth Paltrow, Marion Cotillard, Lawrence Fishburne, and Ross's dad, it doesn't surprise me that Soderbergh calls Contagion his own Irwin Allen type of movie. The only difference between the two is that Soderbergh's movies are way more realistic, modern, and believable. And seriously though, guys, really struck me how many similarities there are between a movie and the reality right now. During the fight against the virus, the director introduces a lot of characters that have something to do with the virus in one way or another. And that's the before mentioned patient zero, her immune husband, the virus detective, the asshole that spreads wrong information here and there, doctors, researchers, soldier Bryan Cranston, and out of so many characters, who is now the main one? The first thing we hear explains that. Did you hear that? Wait, let's actually watch it again. Did you hear that now? That's our main character, the virus. And only in the end of the movie we know what caused the cough. The beginning of the film is probably a reference or a gesture of honor to the 1950 film that's called The Killer That Stalked New York. And why? Because in that film, the movie also starts with a blonde woman who is coming back from a business trip, infected by a deadly virus, and she makes a phone call to her lover. Now, it's really interesting to have a look at both beginnings.
Hey.
Yeah, John Neal here. You just had sex with me in a hotel and left without saying goodbye.
I mean, if that's not a reference, then what is it, goddammit? Copy-paste? Another thing that you notice while watching the movie is that MEV-1, which is the COVID-19 of the film, is not the only virus that spreads. It's also the word of mouth that spreads like a virus. And that you can really see in the scene where Lawrence Fishburne calls his wife to tell her the news about the virus. And of course his wife will call her friends and her friends will call their friends. And while they're all busy doing that, the janitor overhears the news and he's gonna talk about it to other people as well. No doubt about that. And people, if there's one thing I learned in marketing, is that where there is word of mouth, there's also false information. And this movie is full of misinformation due to the blogger Jude Law. And people, where there is false information, there's also fear coming out of it. Do you see the connection between the word of mouth, then false information, and the fear that comes out of it? Well, in the same way, we are all interconnected as a society. And if we are all interconnected, any of these viruses is enough to bring us down as a whole. And that's exactly what the movie showed us and what we are seeing nowadays. The interesting thing is that Soderbergh wanted to make his storytelling as efficient as the virus. He's not wasting scenes in unnecessary movement, but rather keeps the camera stable and only moves it if the character moves. Which gives us the hint that the camera itself might represent the virus. I mean, seriously guys, just have a close look with me at what the camera does. In these scenes, and in a few scenes later on, there are moments where the camera takes on the point of view of several sick people. In these scenes, it looks like the camera acts as if it's surrounding the actors. It keeps a distance and sometimes even hides behind people or objects when others are about to see it. Also, the camera focuses on objects and hands of people as if it wants to show how the infection happens. Which, by the way, has had a pretty interesting effect on me. Because, not gonna lie, I started feeling a bit nervous to get infected, even though I was here in a safe place. Another funny thing that would prove that the camera is the virus is that we never see people dying. We see people getting the virus, we see people suffocating from it, suffering, coughing, but never actually dying. Because if the virus has done its job, it doesn't have to be there anymore. The film is full of modern technology, but that's not what saves the day. It's the old-fashioned human self-sacrifice from doctors and scientists that allows everyone to come together again. So, this old-fashioned self-sacrifice, what does it want to tell us? Maybe actually we can find some answers in the end of the movie. It starts with a bulldozer destroying trees. That makes a bat fly away from its habitat to the city where it infects a pig. And the pig is cooked by a human who shakes hands with another human, patient 0. It seems that our director and the scriptwriter wanted to give us the message that if human activities don't start respecting the nature will fight back on a small scale. Author David Quammen in the New York Times once said, "We cut the trees, we kill the animals or cage them and send them to markets. We disrupt ecosystems, we shake viruses loose from the natural hosts. And what happens then? They need a new host. Often we are it. So what we do as a mankind, more often than not, leads to catastrophic consequences. But there is hope in our fight against this invisible enemy. As long as there are people in our fragile society who are prepared to use their brains and who are brave enough to take sacrifices, there is always some chance for survival." Contagion is without any doubt the best film about the virus outbreak. Not only is it incredibly well researched and very honest as a docu-thriller, it's also a very fine piece of filmmaking. So, people, in these difficult times, I just wanted to tell you, wash your hands, don't touch your face, stay at home and stay safe. And also, thank you for watching.